Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by thanking Mo Levine and Lindsay Robson of Keynote for inviting me to speak before this distinguished group. And I have to say, I am thrilled to see professionals of your caliber here in Miami engaged in issues that are so near and dear to my heart. So thank you all. I know my accent can't fool anyone. I'm born and raised Israeli, been living in Miami long enough to be considered a native, but that doesn't take much. I don't know if you know, there's not many of us that were actually born here, but that diversity is what makes Miami such a warm and welcoming city. I am the co-chair of the Israel practice at the law firm of Holland&Knight, a firm with 1,300 lawyers at 28 offices. And I'm engaged in advising Israeli tech companies on public policy and regulations issues as they come to the US, with a specific emphasis on agri-food tech companies. So I wanted to start my talk today sharing with you all one of my core beliefs. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's founding father and first prime minister, said, "Anyone who doesn't believe in miracles is not a realistic." And we Israelis are quite the believers. We actually, in fact, speaking with some of my Catholic friends, I realized that while Catholics believe in miracles, we Israelis actually rely on them to happen. And if you've seen a business plan of an Israeli company, you know what I mean. But miracles do happen, and I'm going to get back to miracles later on in this talk. So, according to a 2012 USDA census, 30% of farmers, only 30% of farmers in the US are women farmers. Notwithstanding that, a CNBC article claims that women farmers still out-earn their male counterparts. And there's some reasons suggested to that, which I find fascinating. I'm going to share two with you. The first one is that women farmers are more engaged in advocacy. They are involved in supporting organizations that are dedicated to improving farming. And I'm here today representing as a proud member of such an organization here in Florida. It is the Florida Agri-Women. We are an affiliate of a national organization called the American Agri-Women, which is the largest agriculture women organization in the US. We have more than 50,000 members, which are farmers, they're in agribusiness, and consumers who are interested in preserving family-owned farms. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan, all-volunteer organization. We're dedicated to educating the communities and the schools through agriculture ag days at schools and providing scholarships and sponsorships. And we're very eager to grow our base here in Florida. So any of you locals, women, that would like to join, please come speak with me later. The other reason that was suggested in the article to explain the success of women farmers is that women are more creative and they're actually driving innovation. And they are helping to create ways for better farming. So that really begs the question, how many women are actually involved in agri-food tech solutions for the farmers? And I know looking at this group and seeing the inspiring speakers that were here yesterday, you would think there's no problem, but that's really thanks to Mo and Lindsay reaching out to those amazing speakers yesterday. The data is, as you may all know, and I think it was even mentioned yesterday, only 3% of VC funding last year that went into agri-food tech went to women-owned ventures, and that represents only 7% of the total deals. So, and what is the situation in Israel? Pretty much the same. Only 8.4% of agri-food tech companies are women-owned. And if you look at the total data about startups in Israel, you'll see that the percentage of active companies are 8% women, 75% men. 2019, this year, seems to be a promising and a turning point for women-owned ventures. So we will have to wait and see how the data comes out and if more is invested into agri-food tech, but I think we're on the right path. So remember I said I will come back to miracles. Israel's land is more than 50% desert, is unsuitable for agriculture. It has very limited natural resources. When Mark Twain went to visit Israel in 1867, he came back to say that this is it's a barren, dull country. If you've been to Israel, or you will say anything but that. And that's really thanks to innovation. A research that was done in a book that was published more than 15 years ago called The Startup Nation tried to figure out what's the secret for this flow of innovation coming out of Israel. And indeed, with an 8.5 million population, you have the highest per capita startups in the world. It's one startup per every 1,400 companies. You have more than 500 multinationals operating R&D centers in Israel. So what are the reasons that were suggested for this flow of innovation? I'll name a few. One of them is government. Government support, providing funding for early stage startups, incentives in research and development, encouraging foreign investment, obviously leading academia, strong VC and other funding mechanisms. But then the secret sauce and really the source of the talent seems to be the army. It's the largest HR agency in the world. Israelis are getting trained in high-tech innovation in certain units, but more than that, it's a melting pot. You meet people from all walks of life. You learn to speak up, no matter what is your rank. And you learn, unfortunately, to manage situations that otherwise you wouldn't. It's, I guess, the perfect example of life gives you lemon, and you make a lemonade out of it. I think that's what it is. And when Israel was founded, David Ben-Gurion, from my first slide, he said, he called his fellow men and women, "Go make the desert bloom." And that was quite a statement because, as I mentioned, most of the country is desert. But that's how drip irrigation was first invented, on a kibbutz in the desert, in the Negev. And today, you can grow peanuts in the desert. And that's thanks to innovation. And if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. The total number of agri-food tech companies in Israel is about 700. And AgFounder and Startup Nation Central found that between 2014 to 2018, about $759 million were invested in this sector. This year already, according to the Israel Innovation Authority, $135 million were already invested in food tech companies. So the Agtech ecosystem in Israel comprised of input production, input management, which is pets, diseases management, seeds and nutrition, water and fertigations, companies in the farm monitoring and risk management, and companies in the produce and trade management. The focus is on crops, livestock, and aquaculture, and the technology that is being used is everything you can think of course, sensing, data processing, biological, machinery and robotics, materials and substance, and infrastructure components. There are a number of US-Israel joint research program between Israel and US to encourage those joint R&D projects. They're both on a federal level and local state programs as well. The leading federal program is BARD, which is the U.S.-Israel Binational Agriculture Research and Development Fund. Since BARD was founded in 1978, it awarded $310 million to 1,300 joint research and development projects between U.S. academia and Israeli academia. However, while the focus has always been on academic collaboration, in the recent Farm Bill, that program was expanded to also include private partners. And the focus is on both joint programs in precision ag, drip irrigation, pesticides, herbicides, yield increase, and more. So I think on the one hand, we're in this time where you have the merge of the disciplines into agri-food tech. You have the biotech into agri-food tech, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, the IoT. It all merges into this sector and takes it to levels it never reached before. But there's another element to that, and that's medical cannabis. And just looking at Israel, the medical cannabis is heavily regulated, but unlike the US, in the recent decades, while the US really limited the number of research that can be done in medical cannabis, Israel continued to provide the infrastructure for this research. The clinical trials and the data that's been collected, starting with Professor Rafael Meshulam of the Hebrew University, who first discovered and isolated the THC in the cannabis. And the number of innovation that flows since is really positioning Israel as a powerhouse of data. And eager to work with partners in the US on further developing this information and researching. It's still super early. There's so much work to be done, so much data to further research. But between this interdisciplinary, where we are in the innovation and the medical cannabis, I personally think that while Israel is named a startup nation, someone should now call it the Agtech nation. So we're here in Florida, and earlier this year, I was honored to be appointed to serve on the Florida Ag Innovation Work Group, which was formed by Florida Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Nikki Fried. The mission of the work group is to develop recommendations for a strategy to grow the Florida agriculture through innovation. Florida has the perfect climate to grow a variety of crops. It's in this very strategic location between the Americas. It has those amazing ports. There's really and agriculture is one of the pillars of Florida economy. It accounts for $120 billion a year. Yet Florida has been facing some major challenges in agriculture in the recent decades. I'm sure you've heard of the citrus greening that's been devastating for the citrus industry in the state. There's some major challenges and opportunities. So one of the challenges I see working with Israeli companies in the agri-food tech is that when they're looking to make their inroads into the US and find those strategic partners, one of the key ingredients that they're missing is this validation. For a foreign company to enter the US market, it's so critical, and you've heard yesterday about the hesitance of farmers, and you all know that, of adopting new technologies. More so when it comes from a different state. So for Israeli companies and any foreign company really coming here with such a technology, Partnering with a leading academia, partnering with industry is a key. Having a demonstration project, further research to showcase how this technology actually works on this soil, in this weather, is critical. And I am very eager to see such collaboration here in Florida, looking to grow it. So if any of you have any ideas and suggestions, would love to hear from you after this talk. I am very grateful to you for listening to me, and thank you so much.